Hello everyone. As you would know, rightists like to point to Venezuela as a modern example of democratic socialism. However, what they will not tell you is that Venezuela's economy has always been dominated by the private sector. That's right, more than two-thirds of Venezuela's industry remained in private hands under Hugo Chávez. This has been noted by academic papers and right-wing and left-wing news outlets. The Venezuelan economy remains dominated by capitalists. Venezuela is also one of the few countries where the private sector dominates in the area of healthcare, smashing both the Latin American average and the OECD average in out-of-pocket private expenditure. Even the pro-Chavista Telesur website acknowledges that the Venezuelan government continues to subsidize private health clinics, lamenting that old habits die hard. Furthermore, only around 20 to 25% of the workforce is employed in the Venezuelan public sector, whilst the rest work in the private and informal sectors. Public sector employment in France, Britain, Norway, Sweden and Denmark is actually higher, and they are hardly socialist states. So whilst it should be noted that the Chávez government did try to expand public healthcare and bring industries into public ownership, the private sector continued to dominate the economy. Of course, this brings a lot of problems. Since capitalists have such control of the economy, they can use their resources to destroy a left-leaning government. We saw such capitalist destabilization in Chile in the 1970s, where there was massive hoarding, sabotage, and bosses' strikes that were designed to destroy the Allende government. When the Allende government was overthrown, the shops were full of food the very next day.
What they did, and that's why I think one has to get the story very straight, they created destabilization. There was economic turmoil in Chile. There was a trucking strike, which was very important for Chile because we're a very long country. We're like a spaghetti, we're so long. And our highways are basic, and trucking is basic. And trucks stopped because they were paid not to work. And they received more pay not working than working. Yeah, let's remember that the day after the coup, all the supermarkets were full of food.
One of the reasons for this was that Allende did not destroy the economic power of the capitalists in Chile. Indeed, one of the reasons why Fidel Castro was so successful is that he knew what needed to be done to establish socialism. Smash the economic power of the capitalists and their US allies. Understandably, Chávez and Maduro followed the same path as Allende, because they were restrained by a false democracy. The reason why I say that democracy is false because the will of the majority can be restrained by the capitalist structures. For example, say if the majority voted for a socialist party in order to bring the means of production into public ownership. In a so-called capitalist democracy, the capitalists would be able to take the government to court and win, ignoring the will of the people. What kind of democracy is that? Don't get me wrong, I really hope that Maduro triumphs over the Venezuelan reactionaries, but you would be totally wrong to call modern Venezuela socialist. More than two-thirds of the economy is privately owned. Private expenditure, out-of-pocket expenses on healthcare in Venezuela, accounts for 55.1% of total expenditure on health. The OECD average is 27.5%. And the vast majority of Venezuelan workers still work for the private sector.